everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to the Slasher Hour. I'm your host, Lurch.
I'm Darkman.
Sit back and crack yourself a cold one and enjoy. Today we are joined by the wonderful Mr. Justin Welborn. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot for inviting me.
No problem, man. Thank you for being here. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm an actor. I come from Atlanta, Georgia originally. I've lived out here in Los Angeles for 11 years, but I've been coming out here for about 15. I've done theater, film, TV. I'm doing podcasting now, so it's all kind of meshing and combining. I run a show called Right Club Los Angeles. I'm the producer of that, and we haven't done it since the pandemic, but we did it for about 8 years before that, and so just kind of bringing the sports ethos to literary show events where you got 7 minutes on the clock, people are doing opposing topics. The audience chooses the winner, and all the money goes to charity. So it's a pretty fun night.
That's awesome.
And mainly, I've been doing TV and film since I've been here, which I suppose that was the goal.
Yeah.
Oh, what got you into acting?
You know, I've been acting since I was a kid. I think my mom took me to a summer program to be in a show called Stone Soup, and I played the kind of raconteur and con man coming into town, and I think I was 8, 9, something like that. So, and I knew kind of doing that this was something that I loved, and throughout a lot of summer programs and drama teachers, I've been in it a long, long time. And pretty much when I got through high school, I went to college, I knew that I wanted to study drama, and I've taken a few breaks here and there to focus more on writing or traveling and things like that. But overall, I think that kind of adds to the general arsenal that you have as an actor. So, I've been doing it as long as I've ever known. Now, don't get me wrong, I've had hundreds of other jobs, but I've always kind of known that while I was doing them that I was supposed to be doing something else. And so I've always tried to bring it back around and focus on what I'm best at.
Very cool. What has been your favorite film to work on so far?
Well, there have been a lot of films. There have been, I want to say something coy like the one that I'm currently working on, or, the one that's paid the best, but that's not always the case. I really have a special place in my heart for The Signal, which we did back in 2006, came out in 2007, went to Sundance. And that was the first time that really we began to cross our independent theater worlds and our independent film worlds in Atlanta. And it was all friends, and they offered me $600 to do 12 days of shooting and a point in the movie, which I had to have that explained to me at the time. And the movie didn't get picked up by any festivals except Sundance. And then we sold it the first night. So it's one of the only ones that I really get to play a hero in. A lot of my career has been spent playing bad guys and villains and things like that, which I absolutely love.
Right.
But that one has a special place because I came home from that and was like, instead of laying bricks in March and in cold weather and, with this degree in drama, and I know I'm really good at this, I think I'm going to throw my hat into the arena of film and television, see what happens. And luckily, it really has worked out really well. So better than I could have expected. And I really began to push in that direction, and I just love it. I miss theater, but I'm sure I'll get back to that when the right occasions always occur. So
very cool. That's awesome, man. So you've been in such films as Rob Zombie's Halloween Part 2, Southbound, The Crazies. Tell me what it's like to work with a director like Rob Zombie.
I only got to work with Rob for 2 days. He was such a nice guy. Everybody was really great. What I remember about that particular day was that it was such a huge crowd scene, and it was raining outside, and all of these wonderfully made up and they brought a lot of their own costumes. Some of those were better than the costumes that we had to wear on the film. And my friend Shane Morton actually did all the makeup for that. And it was just raining so hard, and I had a trailer and nobody else did that was, that my friends were there. So, we only got to trade a couple words on what we were really doing. And, I've got nothing but respect for Rob. I don't always like all of his movies, but the ones that I do, I love the best.
Yeah.
Like Devil's Rejects, House of a Thousand Corpses, one of my favorites, Yeah, just such an interesting vision. I will admit Halloween 2 is not my favorite film, but at the same time, I met a lot of great people on it, people that I got to work with later, and whose careers I've gotten to see kind of go from there. So, yeah.
Very awesome.
Also did a Final Destination movie. That was one of my real breaks into Hollywood movies. That was one of my first. As a matter of fact, I got that role the day that The Signal came out in a few theaters around America. And that was kind of the shift where I was like, well, if you don't listen to life telling you right now that this is a sign, man, you're not listening.
Exactly.
You need to unplug your ears and start seeing what else you can do. And man, that was the show. They had all the toys and all the boys and girls. So it was It was a trip.
I think my favorite film that you worked on that I've seen so far is The Crazies. You got to beat up Timothy Olyphant. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, that was the first time I met Tim, and it's really funny. We didn't even start filming that scene until like 4 in the morning. I'd been there since early in the day. Originally, it was going to be a twins role, and they fired the kid that was going to be my twin in the movie somewhere halfway through the day. That was kind of devastating to watch him just kind of fall apart right there. But then we got to it, and it was, I'll tell you, you can be starstruck for a little while and enjoy, because I love Deadwood, and, I've always enjoyed his work. And, but then a couple hours into it where you're just sweating and choking and doing all of the stuff, it all kind of falls away, I think at one time he was like, come on, man, harder, like really go. And at that point you're just like, I'm gonna kill this motherfucker. This guy's going down. And then you remember that it's an actual phone cord and that you could actually damage somebody to it. I think he actually had a line across his throat afterwards, and my hands were just bloody from holding that phone cord during the scene. So it was pretty intense. And then we ended up taking it to Iowa, and they told me I was going to be there for 2 days. I ended up there for 2 weeks, and there was nothing in these little towns. I mean, the towns were so small in the area we were doing. The crew had to be broken up around 3 or 4 of the little towns in Iowa, and we were in kind of the best motel, which isn't saying a whole lot, but at the same time, it was, there was a super Walmart there, and right out my window, there was a pasture full of horses. So that's what I remember as my kind of television, was looking out at the super Walmart and seeing the horses.
That's awesome. So I asked this to everybody that's on the show, but if you're stuck in a desert island and you can only take one band and one of their albums with you, who are you taking?
Oh, man. That's such a good question. Because you want to think that you just rock and, you just be able to, but I think I'd get too aggro and probably jump off a palm tree or something. So probably, Pink Floyd was really my introduction to mind-altering music before I ever did anything that was mind-altering. And The Wall was really the one that took me. But I probably wouldn't bring The Wall, because I think that would induce more psychosis than maybe a desert isle would be the way to go. So maybe something a little more along the lines of Dark Side of the Moon, or even The Final Cut. That's one of my favorite albums of theirs. That's
nice.
Super good. Yeah.
So what has
Hope
been...
that's a good enough answer.
Oh, yeah. Perfect. I love Pink Floyd. What has been your favorite concert to see live?
Roger Waters doing The Wall.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. That was actually I met a friend of mine who lived out here in LA, and he had gotten tickets in Las Vegas, and I flew out from Atlanta. It's before I lived here. And it was just unbelievable. And during that particular weekend, we talked about the fact that if you could wrangle $5,000 to $10,000, you could change your life in America.
Right.
You know, you could make a decision that you know, you'd have to get to work, you'd have to get there, you could go anywhere, New York, LA, Chicago, anywhere. But yeah, and that kind of just stuck with me. And then when Final Destination came through and the residuals began to kind of come across, and I kind of found myself with something along those lines, and I had to decide, am I going to stay here and continue what I'm doing in Atlanta, or am I going to engage and move to Los Angeles? And that was the concert and weekend that kind of prompted my move out here to LA.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Just in time for Georgia to start filming a whole lot of movies. So I've obviously got really great timing in this world. But luckily I've been hired here to work there, and that's a pretty good direction to go.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what kind of got you into music? I understand that you're a singer. That you do a little singing.
I sing karaoke. I am not a professional singer at all. I like to say I'm a karaoke warlord in the fact that I will go and I will just rock the songs that I like to sing. But yeah, I mean, music's always been a part of my life. I think if you're an artist or an entertainer, or it's just such a different time for music now, especially in the way that, you know, we used to have to collect movies and buy albums, and now, you know, so much you can get online and streaming and Spotify and all that. And I've really been able to open up a lot of my tastes in the last few years of just different bands I hadn't heard for a while. You know, you get stuck in that pattern of listening to the stuff that you really like. And you know, one of the weird things is that the internet likes to suggest things that you may like or may not. And I've just found a whole lot of things that I've just really enjoyed through that. Everything from classical music to the music that you hear on the shows that you really enjoy, that you're like, I have never heard that version. I heard on the new Pretty Little Liars show, which I don't think is quite as good as the first two seasons, but at the same time, it's very Halloween-y. And there was a version of the Monster Mash on there that I had never heard, and I was just able to look it up right there. And I think I played that for 3 days in my car. It was just fun and going, and you know, it was just, yeah, you can just find that stuff and dig down.
Well, okay, I got a question for you.
Okay.
Who would you like to, you know, act with, or who would be your dream role, or, you know, the cast, you know, the cast or director or whoever?
Wow, that is a big question.
It's good,
I mean, there's some people that I've gotten to work with before, like John Hawkes, who's just an amazing guy. I mean, I've known him socially and gotten the privilege to work with him, and he's just so real. And that's one of those things that's just amazing to do. I've gotten to work with Peter Weller, RoboCop, Buckaroo Banzai, twice. Both times I had no idea that he was directing the episodes that I was going to be on. And he is just a madman, but wonderful to work with. So if it's something like television, you really enjoy somebody who's been in the trenches, that knows an actor's process. He told me once, we were doing an episode of Justified, and we were rehearsing it, and the door was behind me, and the first time I kind of had to do this crazy turnaround, and so I, you know, turned my chair a bit, and the next time we rehearsed it, I just looked over, and he was like, no, go back to the really hard thing, you know, never make it easier on yourself. That will really, you know, it's dramatic. It sparks tension. It's one of these things that it looks uncomfortable, and because it does, that's really interesting to watch on screen. I've never forgotten that. So working with Peter again would be pretty great. I mean, of course, you know, I watched Casino a couple weeks ago. I mean, who doesn't want to work with Scorsese or Spielberg or, you know, any of these amazing Marvel or you know, House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones type shows. I'd love to be in some chainmail, whipping a sword around. That sounds pretty great. But yeah, it's interesting how it develops. I'd love to get back to working with some of my my old friends who are becoming well-known actors, well-known directors in their own right. David Bruckner, his Hellraiser is coming out on Hulu really soon. He's a great friend of mine. Jacob Gentry, I did Broadcast Signal Intrusion with him that came out last year. Dan Bush, I just did a horror podcast with him that's like 7 or 8 parts, and I got to play a really great role with that. So getting to work with my friends like Greg Bishop, who I did Dance of the Dead with, my indie filmmakers who are really coming into their own. I'd love to work with them again. We've already got a shorthand from our friendship and our ability to know what the other person does. And each one of them is different as a director, but knowing them like I do, it makes it exciting. And you're really able to just kind of dial into what that person might want, and they encourage what it is that you do already that's interesting.
Right. Cool. So what got you into horror movies?
Man, honestly, making horror movies got me into horror movies. I had watched all of the zombie movies that I could and things like that. But when I started really making horror movies, I realized that I wanted to study horror movies, and I wanted to see what everybody had been doing. And so for years now, including now, I am constantly finding new things that I really enjoy. And the interesting part is, as a kid, I was terrified of horror movies. I had such a vivid imagination. I had terrible dreams. They scared me and scarred me as it was. And, probably was watching those things far too little when cable was available, and you could just see that stuff at like 5 p.m. or whatever. And, but then it just became, as you get older and you get into them, you just want to be scared.
Yeah.
Scare me.
Yeah.
Show me something that's beyond my ability to really put together. And that's been really and movies that are horror movies that aren't necessarily what we would consider horror, like Night of the Living Dead, but something like Monos, that is just terrifying. These Lord of the Fly type events, I really love that. Midsommar is one of my favorite movies that I kind of jumped in, and of course Hereditary. I just all those movies.
That's another one I haven't seen Hereditary yet too. I haven't,
what?
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Oh my goodness. I saw that in the movie theater here in LA, and it is one of the only movies that I remember that I was yelling in surprise and horror, and people around the theater were, and afterwards people exited in this kind of stunned way and stood around and talked about the movie for 20-30 minutes.
Yeah.
Just like, did you see this? Did you see this? And that's an amazing kudos to filmmaking and to the people, the performances in that movie. So when you get a chance, man, darken the room, turn that on, and watch it as big as you can, because there's so much to it. Just wonderful.
Man, I'm gonna have to definitely do that. So where can people find you?
Where do people find me?
Yeah.
As in, like, online?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, you can find me under my name on Facebook, Justin Welborn. I'm at The Real Justin Welborn on Instagram. I had a hacking incident a couple months ago, and so they kind of took that, and I've started a new one. I'm at Revolution 23 on Twitter, but you could probably find me under Justin Welborn as well there. And right now, those are the platforms that I'm using, although, like I said, I'm beginning a couple podcast shows with SiriusXM Road Dog Trucking, and we're doing a show called Snake Pontchartrain's Places You Wouldn't Want to Go Without Snake Pontchartrain. And it's a scripted horror adventure anthology that is very much kind of John Carpenter and Convoy mashed together. Big Trouble in Little China is a big influence for that one. And the new show that we just started this week is called Cargo Cult, and we're going to be talking about movies and culture and the hero's journey and just travel in general, and what that is to move through space and time and take these things in, like movies and books and graphic novels, music, all those things that we love.
That's awesome. So you got anything going on next? What's next for you?
Well, that is always the question. Mainly these podcasts are what I've been concentrating on lately. I've got an audition today, so tomorrow might be a whole different story as to what it is that I'm doing. But there are always a few things in the works, man. You know, you never want to... I don't consider myself a superstitious person, but, you know, you don't jinx it by touting it up until you're like, yeah, the money's there, the part is there. We're all in it together, man. Right. So, yeah. Hopefully something interesting. I got to ride a horse for 3 months on Godless in New Mexico,
awesome.
And that was pretty fun. Yeah. So, you know, anybody out there with a horse want me to ride him, I'm pretty good with it.
How about a motorcycle?
You know what? I am not a motorcycle rider. I would love to ride a motorcycle. I've always had kind of... fair to bad luck with automobiles, and I just feel like that would just slide me under a truck and a motorcycle. I would absolutely do it with some training and doing it for a film, but I can't really see myself owning much more than a decent-sized Vespa. And even when I got one of those when I was in Italy, boy, I rammed that thing into so many other things.
In Italy, to be fair, they drive like they're the only one on the road, so I get it.
I'm from Atlanta. We do that anyway, so it wasn't much of a transition, you know. I like to think of myself as an offensive, defensive driver, so you know,
that's how you have to be down there, too.
Here in LA. And honestly, you know, you can only go so fast unless you're a, you know, fucking asshole. So, you know, for the most part, as long as you're kind of keeping it in your lane, you know, it's not nearly as bad as a lot of what I've faced in the ATL. So, yeah.
Right on. Well, thank you so much for being here. If you guys want to follow Justin, all of his links will be dropped in the description box below. Thank you so much, Justin, for being here. We want to thank you very much. Everyone stay horror, and until next time, I'm Lurch.
I'm Darkman.
Stay horror. We'll see you later.
Take it.
Make sure you like and subscribe. Follow us on Facebook, Clintonville Slashers Club, and on Instagram, Frankenhooker Band. Links will be in the description box below. Slashers on the loose, Clintonville. Maybe next time I come for you.
You're gonna die, bitch!